Welcome, everyone. This is David Morgan of morganreport.com on behalf of InvestmentPitch. And today I'm going to do an interview with Inflection Resources. And there's a lot to the story, but I'm going to turn it over to Alistair right away to introduce himself, the company, and then I'll shoot him with rapid fire questions. Alistair, nice to meet you.
Likewise, pleasure to meet you too. So yeah, by way of an introduction, so my name Alistair Waddell, President CEO of the company. We've been around since about 2018. We are a Canadian US listed company that's focused on the exploration and discovery of very large copper gold deposits in Eastern Australia, specifically northern New South Wales. And we're exploring a belt of rocks called the Macquarie Arc. And this belt of rocks is host to some of Australia's biggest mines. The big one in the belt is Cadia. This is the flagship operation for Newcrest Mining. This is the backbone of Newcrest in many respects. The other big mine in the belt is Evolution Mining. Their Cowal deposit. This is their flagship mine. And then the third major mine is one called North Parks, and this is owned by a Chinese group in a joint venture with Sumitomo. And to cut a long story short, this big belt of rocks trends broadly north-south, and it disappears under a blanket or veneer of younger transported sediments, masking the underlying geology. So we're exploring the northern covered extension of this highly prospective belt that hosts these big mines. And we've got a very large land position. And in fact, we have over 7,000 square kilometers of exploration licenses. We're making us the biggest holders of ground in the state. And more recently, we've just entered into a large-scale multi-year agreement with AngloGold Ashanti to help us explore this huge portfolio of ground.
Alistair, let me pause you there. So this is one of the keys that brought me into wanting to do this interview. And I want to just give a bit of background. Having Anglo Ashanti put in, I think, 10 million Australian initially, and then there's a couple more phases you can tell us about. But this is a trend that I've started to see more and more on what I would consider to be a well above average prospects. I'm not going to name the name of a company that's in the Morgan Report, but RTZ has got a similar setup with them. So let me pause and ask, do you think this is a trend where these larger companies that need new material are going to come to people that have projects of merit rather than go out and explore themselves? Because the industry is, the majors don't explore really, but they usually don't come in this early either. So I'd like a comment.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, really, I used to work for the major mining companies. I used to run the global greenfields group for Kinross Gold. So there's an element of understanding of what the majors are looking for. And really, I think putting my Inflection hat on for a minute, I mean, ultimately it's sort of district scale land positions in mining friendly jurisdictions, and critically targets that have the scale to deliver a deposit that will ultimately appeal to the major mining company. So those simple things, you'd probably filter out a lot of the juniors just using those key criteria, because ultimately, there's only several jurisdictions where the majors really want to operate in the long term, and you've got to obviously have targets that have potential to deliver. But beyond that, looking at things like 100% ownership, big district scale land positions, and critically targets that have never been drilled before. So this is another key thing. Just speaking generally, you want to see as well. You don't necessarily want to see all prospects that have been drilled many times before. But you're right. I think the majors are entering into more of these types of agreements. I can think of a couple that ultimately they just don't have the people or the capacity to execute on some of these programs. So they're looking for competent teams with the right strategy and the ability to execute in a manner that's acceptable to them. So they don't have to do it themselves. And, Inflection's a great example. I mean, AngloGold ultimately piggyback in on the back of 3 years of experience exploring this belt. and ultimately they're providing capital that's going to go into directly drill testing targets that have already been defined.
Yeah, it's a great situation for both sides as far as I'm concerned. Why don't you give us some blue sky where you think the potential is? We don't know until we drill, but the truth meter is very good at getting the market excited or not. So tell me more.
Absolutely. So we touched on this, but we're exploring a large portfolio of copper gold targets. These are alkalic porphyry targets. So these are generally, broadly speaking, gold-rich porphyries. So these truly, these are the long-life copper gold assets that a lot of the major mining companies, including the gold miners, are looking for these days. And as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of the gold miners are now looking for copper. So if you tick the copper and the gold box with long life assets, these big porphyry deposits are very attractive to them. But we are looking for something very, very large. We are truly looking for tier 1 scale deposits. This is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot by a lot of junior explorers. And, really it is, they're not. So we are looking for something very, very large. These are big kilometer scale features that have been identified in the regional magnetic survey, and we're drilling them for the very first time. So that's really a key part of the Inflection story.
Well, I think you did a great outline on it, Alistair. I like to keep these down around 10 minutes due to the fact of the inability of the average person to hold their attention very long these days with this too much information age. But is there anything in summary that you would like to say to our viewer today before we close out?
Well, really, as I mentioned, it's a fabulous mining-friendly jurisdiction, big tier 1 scale targets. They've never been drill tested. I didn't get into the team, but we've got a very, very technically driven team that's been serially successful at finding major mines and deposits throughout the world, but specifically in Australia. We own 100% of these targets. These were targets that we acquired on open ground. So there's no underlying deals to deal with here. It's a very simple, clean story in that respect. And drilling, we're funded. We've got AngloGold spending many millions of dollars through a multi-phase agreement across these large-scale targets that are going to require a lot of expensive drilling. So, I certainly sleep a lot better at night knowing that we're going to be able to drill lots and lots of holes into these big targets and not worry about every single meter, every single hole that we're going to be drilling. So it's going to be a very exciting story. We executed this agreement here less than a week ago now. We're just gearing up to get the drilling started. It's looking like it's going to be around about a 30,000 meter drill program as part of this phase 1 program. But it's going to be a very exciting sort of initial 18 months which we're planning to drill. And every single hole is testing something very big and something that's never been drill tested before. So from an exploration geologist perspective, like myself, that's the exciting thing. Every hole is testing something very big and new. Well,
Alistair, as CEO and president of Inflection Resources, I wish you the absolute best. Looks like you got a tiger by the tail, and we will have to revisit. And I want to thank you publicly to allow me to be one of the first to bring this to the attention of the mining community. That means a lot. So thank you for that.
No, thank you very much. And look, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out directly. We're at inflectionresources.com. We're on all the social media channels and whatnot. But if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and give me a call. Very happy to chat with anybody.
Thank you.